Hello guys, welcome back to another episode of the Whiskey Diaries. This is the first one of 2021. Hopefully it goes a little bit better than 2020. Today we're going to be talking about one of the classic malts of the Diageo that is called the Talisker distillery. Now Talisker, we're going to go through a little bit of history, what makes Talisker so particular, and obviously we're going to try the 10-year-old. This is the first one that we're going to do. We have done in our videos a 41-year-old, a 30-year-old, but now we're just going to go through all of the range and just cover why Talisker is such a classic and such a good whiskey. Now, Talisker got established in 1830 by the brother MacAskill in the town of Carbost in the Isle of Skye. Skye is part of the what you call the Isle regions or the island regions of Scotland. So it's part of like Islay, Jura, Skye, Orkney, and there's a few little different islands here and there. Which basically one of the main characters that is characteristic of these islands is the saltiness and the brine style of whiskey that you get from all that iodine and so on. Talisker in itself had a very, very complex history during the time between the years that they opened until now. Like a lot of things happens. For instance, in the 1960s, it's gone completely destroyed by fire, so much that they had to rebuild the distilleries, the pot stills and everything as a replica from the previous one because they were completely destroyed. And the reason why they did that replica is because Talisker has a pretty unique method of making the whiskey. First of all, they have something that is called wormholes inside, which creates a lot of reflux. And the reflux, what it does to the whiskey, it actually creates a lot of like heavy characters, and that's why Talisker actually, if you compare it, if you do a blind taster with Talisker à la Laphroaig, the smokiness of Talisker actually sometimes comes a lot stronger than Laphroaig. You might even confuse them. And Talisker, as a matter of fact, has more ppms than Talisker in itself. So Talisker has around 18 to 22 ppm. Laphroaig, on the other hand, is about 30 ppm. Now, after they rebuilt the distillery in the 1960s, they changed as well from direct fire to actually steam heat as well, just to control it a little bit more. They have 5 stills in themselves. They have 3 watch stills and 2 main stills. Initially, in the early days of Talisker, they started distilling 3 times, but in the 1920s, 1930s, they started going to the more common way, that is double distillation. Now, the other interesting fact is that most bottling, I would say 90% of all bottlings of Talisker has the same ABV, which is 45.8. They picked this just to match basically their the style of whiskey that they do. They feel that this is the best ABV for that, including the 30-year-old, the 41-year-old. Most of the whiskies, they have 45%. 45.8. The only one that changed that is the one that is 57 North. That is just one of the locations of where the island is, but we'll talk about that when we actually touch on that whiskey. Now, as I said before, Talisker, one of the slogans of Talisker is made by the sea. What this means is actually the distillery is looking over the ocean, and this imparts a very particular character that is it's a little bit common with all the whiskies are all around the islands. It's a pretty heavy climate. Like it's a lot of rain, a lot of ocean, a lot of wind, very windy. So obviously the ocean comes into the distillery, and you get that saltiness in the casks and stuff. So actually you can test it when you try it. Now, all Taliskers, the majority of the casks that I use at Talisker are American oak. They do the Port Rouge, in which they use different types of ports, port casks and so on, but the majority is American oak. And what you get, like many videos that we've done before, obviously aging the aging part of the whiskey is probably 60 or 70% of the flavor will come from the casks. So being American oak, it's actually, we're going to get a lot of vanilla, a lot of toffee, but obviously the saltiness and the iodine that comes from the ocean will come through as well. The other thing worth noticing about Talisker is that it's a great whiskey for value for money. It is considered one of the top whiskies in the world. The 18-year-old won Best Whiskey in the World in 2005. In 2015, the 10-year-old also won Best Whiskey in the World, and the 12-year-old. It is an incredible whiskey, and it's definitely a staple of any back bar or any home back bar that you can think of. On the nose, yeah, you'll get that saltiness and iodine. There's a little bit sweetness in the back as well, once you get over the smoke. And yeah, when you drink it, including but for a 10-year-old, this is highly complex whiskey. It has a great palate weight. It has a sweetness at the front of on the tongue, and then the smoke. Once you swallow, the smokiness comes from, but it's not like a heavy smoke. It's more like a campfire style of smoke. It's not as iodine or strong as something like Ardbeg or Lafroig, so it's highly enjoyable. It's a highly recommended whiskey. So hopefully you like the first episode of the Whiskey Diaries for 2021. We'll see you next time, guys. Sludge bar.